Okay, this assignment is called Flip 6, and this is completely optional. This is essentially a short review for the test on Monday, the A-Day, and I will run through the basic sections of the test and give you some tips. The first section of the test is actually abbreviations, BC and BCE, AD and CE. So you should know what each of those stands for and what group of people use them. The next two sections of the test are pretty straightforward. There's a section on the women of Exodus. There are 5 women, and there are 6 questions. So you might ponder which one is going to be used more than once. And then there is a section on the men of Exodus. There are 5 men on the test. There are 7 questions. So you might ponder which 2 might be used more than once. We got a little video to show you at the very end of this if you've got some time to kill. Okay, abbreviations, the women, the men. The next section is places, and this is a matching section where I list important places from the stories of Exodus all the way through Joshua and what's important about them, and you match them up. I think that one I give you more answers than there are questions, so there's some dummy misleading ones that you need to watch out for. That's different than the actual map. The map I will click to on the next page and highlight what is important for you to know on that. Jewish holy days, I think there's about a half a dozen Jewish holy days that I went over on the different slides, and there are about 10 questions on them. So I'm going to ask you a couple of questions about different Jewish holy days. So again, you're going to want to go through your list of Jewish holy days, make sure that you have 6 of them listed. I think they're actually on 2 different slides. I believe Flip 3 has most of them, and then there's a couple on Flip 4. And think about which ones are probably going to get more than one question about them. So 6 answers, 10 or maybe even 11 questions. You got to think through which ones are going to be important. The vocabulary section is the most straightforward. There are 10 vocabulary words and there are 10 vocabulary questions. And so it's straight up. Each one is used exactly once. The last section of the test is true-false, and it's not something where you can go through your notes and try to highlight things. The other sections of the test, I would recommend if you're a person who does flashcards, make 5 flashcards about the women and quiz yourself on those. Make a list of 12 places on the map and quiz yourself on that. And keep those separate. Or if you make a Quizlet, do a Quizlet with just the men of Exodus to quiz yourself on, because that's the way the test is arranged. Or make a stack of Jewish holy days and use that as a way to quiz yourself. And maybe look at making multiple cards. So a couple of cards for this holy day and a couple of cards for this holy day, and mix them up and see if you can guess what I'm going to put on the test. I think on Flip 1, Flip 2, Flip 3, Flip 4, Flip 5, I've tried to be very precise about here's what you need to know. I didn't put a lot of information. It was mostly verbal, but if you didn't watch one of the videos or you watched it but didn't take notes, it might be worth watching again. If you watched it and took detailed notes, then no reason to go back to them. The true-false, again, is not something that you can necessarily study for. It's concepts that I talked about in class, kind of big picture items. Because I'm giving it to you on an A-Day and there are 65 questions, I am not putting any short answer on this test. So the map, I saw some people who wrote out maps for Flip 2 that were very detailed. They had everything on this map on their own map. And I'm not going to ask you where Ezion Geber is. I'm not going to ask you where the Moabites live versus where the Ammonites live or where the Edomites live. I focused on the bodies of water. I'm not going to make you differentiate between the Gulf of Aqaba and the Gulf of Suez at the bottom. Later we'll talk about the Suez-Sinai War, but for our purposes, that is all the Red Sea. So focus on the bodies of water. You should have drawn on your map the approximate location of the Sea of Reeds or the Reedy Sea, and you should know the basic geography of the Exodus. Not the actual route the Israelites took, but their trip from Egypt out into the wilderness to Mount Sinai and their eventual journey to the Promised Land. The actual route they took when they wandered for 40 years, we don't really know. There is a story of Aaron dying on Mount Hor. There's a tradition of where Mount Hor is. Mount Nebo is something you should know. That's where Moses stops and looks over into the Promised Land. And in this screenshot, the Sea of Galilee seems to have gotten cut off. Let me see if I can pull it up. There we go. The Sea of Galilee. So again, the water areas, if you know all of those bodies of water, the Jordan River that Joshua crosses with the Ark of the Covenant, things like that, you'll be in good shape. And hopefully this is an easy section of the test. That being said, this is a YouTube of a Central Catholic high school. I think the one in Ohio, and I think their nickname is the Crimson Tide. They're all wearing red, and apparently they are acting like a giant Red Sea, and Moses comes up and makes a wave go through the Red Sea. And if you're thinking about the idea of us being the shepherds being a great idea, this would go along very well with it. They actually borrowed my shepherd's crook last year during the basketball playoffs, and Central Catholic did a rendition of this, but not quite as good as this group. So at this point, you can just turn the video off, or you can stay and watch. And I have a little trouble here. That was pretty horrible. Let's see if I can get it to go back the right way.